Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting brunch here at X's for Show. You can check us out at X's for Show. We are your favorite show for media response. I am, of course, Nico. You can check me out, of course, at Nico Action, NICOACTION.
And I'm TK. You can check me out, of course, at TK Elemental.
And that makes me Tori. You can find me on the socials at SM Tori. That's Tori with an I.
Hi, I'm Jonah. You can find me places at Geek Jonah.
That makes me your producer. You can find me at Kev O'Reilly. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment so that we know what you want us to cover in the future. But today, we have another exciting round of Canada versus the world.
I love your use of exciting. It's almost pejorative.
It certainly elicited a response.
Yeah, and we're going to have a ball. We're going to have an absolute ball. But I want to start internationally. I don't want to pick on just one area. No. We're going risk. Full global domination, global all-stars. I want to talk about something that's not so much a spoiler as it is something that's been recently announced. Global All-Stars' third regular judge is going to be JAMAL SIMS. And something I think that's so special about that is something we have learned from a number of the queens over the last couple of years is that humor is regional, but dance, movement is kind of universal. Movement is kind of a common cultural gift we share, whether it's an appreciation, a distaste for. There are people that think ballet is boring as hell. And so what we have of movement is so different than what we have of humor. And I would love to know how you guys feel about JAMAL SIMS being our all-star judge number 3.
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. He has been a part of the family for such a long time. I think it's always interesting when it's somebody whose role at Drag Race is so specific. Because you go, well, what's he going to do when it's an acting challenge? But I don't worry about that. I think it's just we associate he's the dance guy, so how will he critique their actual singing voices, or how will he critique their looks? Well, because he's been around them the whole time. He's constantly been on the show. He's in the community. He's also an artist. We let celebrity judges on all the time who have no knowledge of drag and just have done one movie, and we're like, please tell us all what we're doing wrong. So it feels like, although I can see how you might initially have a weird reaction to it, I think it makes a ton of sense. I will be interested to see if it means they do more movement-based challenges, and if that becomes a bigger part of it, or if we get to, as an alternative or in addition, see other sides of JAMAL's experience that would sort of indicate where he's coming from when it comes to critiquing other aspects of the girls' performances.
Yeah, for me, I mean, he's been around for so long. It seems like the girls always have a positive reaction to him and when he's in the room. And for me, I don't, and this might just be me defending my own self and my own thoughts, but I think that having someone on the panel who is closer to the average audience member is helpful, because sometimes the average audience member doesn't have those references, doesn't have certain understandings. And while he is completely in the fields that he's in, and he's in entertainment, he's done all of these things, he can speak to dance and musicality and grace and power. At the end of the day, because he's not in it, it's different. And I think that we need some of that. If RuPaul can talk about how wonderful your singing tone is, I think we can all agree that JAMAL can probably speak on acting. too. Jonah, what do you
Listen,
think?
I'm someone who thinks the Olympics should have an average person competing as well, just so we can see,
agree.
how exactly do these juggernaut athletes compare. And in the same way, these are juggernaut drag queens. These are some of the best from all around the world, and I love that for them. I love Jamal here because it's a new perspective. Back when Santino was a judge and everything was kind of the same, and he was just mean and say wrong things all the time, it really was just kind of like, oh, thank goodness Ross and Carson are here to save us. And I still love both of them, but I think adding a new, fresher perspective from Jamal, somebody who has this focus on dance, who's been teaching and choreographing for years upon years, for people closer to my age, Jamal Sims choreographed Hoedown Throwdown.
I'm so glad you got there because you started with choreographing. Well, you started with choreographing, and then you got to choreographing, and I was so proud of you in that moment.
I think I also want to harken back to something TK mentioned that makes me think of a judge that we had. I think it was during 16 when Sarah Michelle Gellar was on the RDR Live episode. That's not necessarily a role you would think of for Sarah Michelle Gellar. I understand that one of my favorite Sarah Michelle Gellar roles of all time is on the David E. Kelly juggernaut, to use the word again, the woefully early canceled Crazy Ones. I think she's very funny, but she's not usually what you think of. And so I think a lot of times it's going to depend on what the judge themselves bring to the role. Like Jonah said, even if they don't necessarily have the most experience in that area, hopefully they can have something to contribute, because we all have opinions on a lot of things that we aren't necessarily exceptionally dexterous at, but still have thoughts and opinions.
Speaking of having thoughts and opinions, I maybe have the opinion that I should not have done this piece of background score, because now all I can do is kind of dance to Pink Pony Club, which I threw up as the background music because this is your favorite cover's favorite cover now. And so let's talk about some other amazing queens. I can't wait to see where a Global All-Stars goes. It's going to be
around the world.
It's going to be an absolute gas if you think about it. So
it's right there on that card too. JAS, you can see it plain as day. Anyway.
I'm back. I'm back.
Yeah, you are
Am I back?
You're
I'm back.
He's
Okay.
back.
Back
Again.
Well, then let's talk about the back to it ball. I love that we... man. I want to start a bunch of places. I want to start with, what is it when Eureka's the voice of reason in a situation? I want to pivot
Hysterical.
to why say fiercelicious. And then I want to talk about that giant mirror pussy and that cat. Man. So that is where I want to start this conversation. I read an article from the BBC. I know it's unbelievable. I read an article from the BBC where a lot of drag queens in the UK are talking about how drag at a professional level, the level that they say is now possible to make money at, requires a small fortune to invest in the first place, because things like the wings that you see on stage here are becoming so much more prevalent. I'm certainly not complaining, knowing how mechanically and technologically minded, this team is, but it is almost starting to seem like it's a little bit more, what engineers do you know, than how good a drag queen are you in some of these competitions. And that does leave me kind of questioning, are we almost at the point where the sew it here, sew it now, sew it yourself part of the ball challenge is to sort of offset the fact that a small down payment for a house in some cities is required to enter an All-Stars?
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think it is unforgivable to have people display the talent of taste and the talent of being able to shop well and buy well. We'll get into it with Lemon's look and what was said about that and where she came from and all that. But I mean, I really do think curating your own style, even through purchase, is a talent, is impressive, is something we expect of people from other walks of life. Actors can't go to award shows looking a mess. they can if there's a curation to it, but there has to be some sense of pulled together style, and usually it requires a ton of money and loans and connections. But then they also have to show up and be good actors at some point. So I think saying like, you can bring 2 that you pay for, and this is going to handicap some people and make things really difficult, but also you have to do one yourself. And, I love that a few people, specifically, I think it was Cheryl, said like, yeah, I went and after my season, I took sewing classes. I really like when queens say that. Just because, again, like, it's not that hard to do. It's
To at
your
least
craft
try.
anyway, and if you know you're going to go on this show and they're going to ask the question, you should just be able to say yes no matter what. And yeah, I mean, I love seeing the creativity of what they come up with in the workroom. I do sometimes wonder more than anything, like I love offsetting the purchase looks with something they actually had to make, but then I also wonder if sometimes it removes some of the wow factor of what they're able to pull together in the workroom, because the other 2 looks that they've brought are so polished because they were pre-made.
For me, I hear the fact that we're getting to the point where it's just all designer made, it all costs a ton of money, and the idea that you need to be able to sew as a drag queen isn't as important. But I really do think that there's a certain amount of, you have to be able to sustain yourself out in the world, because it seems to me, and I may be wrong, so please correct me, but it seems like even if you're on like something like Work the World Tour, you're still sort of responsible for your own stuff. It does not seem like it's a Broadway production where they pack everything into a box. There's a crew of 8 wardrobe people working on it, making sure it's good. If you split your bodysuit for your number, there's a sewing machine in the back because there's a wardrobe crew for the theater usually. Do you know how to use it? Are you okay? Can you pull something together really quick that still looks stunning? Or are you begging from off of other people and causing drama? So like, I always like to think that we can hold the grassroots side of things as well as the elevated side of things. And I think it's why originally I was not a big fan of the idea that Allstars was going to have lower placing queens on it, until I kind of thought about it as a lot of the lower placing queens, particularly from earlier seasons, are because their drag was not elevated enough, which tends to translate to not enough money was spent. And so for me, I get very excited when we see people come back to Allstars with more money behind them, who get to showcase the level that they can achieve if you just invest in your local queens.
I think one of the issues we see, I think the drag artists are having, and I think there's more around the world, but Nico specifically mentioned the UK, is because drag is no longer a underground art form, so to speak, because that's what drag was. Drag was not a mainstay popular thing. Drag queens weren't famous. Drag queens weren't making thousands upon thousands of dollars and walking in Mugler shows. Was an underground art form, so the people who were dedicated to it, the people who wanted to do it, who like, this is their art, they live and die by their art, it's easier for them to, in a way, make a living. But because of the popularity of the show and bringing it to the forefront, and people who are fans wanting to see more drag queens, there's this call for more and more drag. The barrier to entry for the art form to make money seems to be a lot higher, because of the, I don't want to say oversaturation of queens, but there are many, many people who want to do drag. And like any art form, I think only a lucky few get to make the money from their art. How many people, post digital art online and they do whatever, and that's just something that's their hobby because they can't afford to do that full time. It's really, I think it's an unfortunate side effect that the barrier to entry is expected to be, you have to be at the level of what they're showcasing on the show. That's not reasonably affordable for someone who wants to start out, unless you're able to start making your own things, or you're able to thrift very well, or you have impeccable styling and you can just, you know how to shop, you know what to do, you know how to get a bargain. I don't know. I think on an All-Stars, it's reasonable to ask to say, hey, step this up. But on a regular season, or if you're going to a local show, to expect a level of a produced TV show of people who especially have been on it before, not really that fair. I always want to see, especially queer art, be brought to the forefront and have people be able to love what they do and be. If we lived in an ideal world and society, people who want to make art would be able to sustain themselves off their art, and people who, don't want to do art and want to do other things, they're able to sustain themselves off of that. That's not the world we live in, and I see it's becoming an interesting phenomena about, money, barrier to entry, and expectations. With all that being said, on an all-star season, I do expect your elevation to make sense with who you are as a queen. One of the things, not to always talk about the other show, one of the things I do love about Dragula is that you have a lot of entertainers from all different walks of life who, some don't have a lot of money, and a lot of them are a lot more crafty and make their own things, so it kind of comes looking like, okay, you can tell they made it, but they aren't judged by if you made it or how much you spent it. It's a lot more about the specific art of it, and I think I would love to see Drag Race maybe adopt that mindset a little bit more, as opposed to bigger, more expensive every single time. Can we temper expectations just a little bit of like, this is what drag in the real world looks like?
Well, and that was something that I really appreciated that Lemon kind of zinged back when Fierce Alicious was like, your costume costs too much. And her response was, and where'd you get your wings? You bought them online? Okay, then shut up. And like, there is this level where, I used to work in a very competitive sector of education that I now work adjacent to. And in that area, they used to say that, anything's possible. Anybody can move any metric. If you throw enough money at anything, anybody can move any metric. I love speed runs. I do. One of the things I love about classic 8-bit speed runs is that if you just practice it enough times, you'll always know where the jump is. You'll always know which warp pipe is faster. You don't need money to get good at classic 8-bit speed runs. You just need a device that plays the 8-bit game. What you do need to get into competitive professional gaming is a killer PC. What you need is a great internet hookup. What you need are all of these things. And I think it's exactly what you're saying, Jonah. People that say, anybody can make it in esports. All you need is a controller and a dream are absolutely bonkers.
And it's also that idea of you don't see all of the unspoken labor that goes behind it. It's the old, J.R. Tolkien was able to wrap himself into a room and pour out the Lord of the Rings trilogy because his wife was handling all of his chores and keeping him clean and caring for the kids. He had TAs who were handling all of his classes when he was just muttering about hobbits in the background. Like, even to have time to get to the point of being a speedrunner, you have to be able to dedicate a certain amount of time. Now you can stretch that out, or if you want to do it now, you have to have the time to do it, which I imagine is like, let's call it 100 hours. Well, that's 100 hours of not getting quote unquote paid. So how are you sustaining yourself outside of that? And so I think that's part of it too, is that you have to have the net around you to be able to do something fast enough to keep up with the spin of fame.
And on that same idea, I do want to kind of say that I love the winner here, and I don't mean to be such an Alexis Mateo fanboy, but it's interesting, and like I do want to like find a way to like talk about this because like I'm a drag king who doesn't do makeup. I wear a mask, so like I get it, specifically get it. I mask for mask. It's very funny, but like the entire thing here is like we hit a point where for me the looks stop. Like there's this point where I think cosplay stops being cosplay and becomes independent engineering. there's a point where it's not a costume, it's a device that it affects your mobility, that like literally your feet are now in something where you're no longer capable of touching the ground, you can no longer see. Like it's another level of costumery. And like I don't mean to say it's not drag. I mean to say it is a technical ability that is parallel to drag.
Yes.
And like it's a new form that we kind of need to start saying, your $230,000 look. Who's gonna bring their $230,000 look this season? And like
It's not a better form of art or any like language like that, but it's more elevated and more advanced insofar as like, and it's hard to tell on but like this cat outfit where it's
so
the mirror,
amazing.
Unreal.
amazing.
Oh, amazing.
Insane. And when you want to compare it to flabby arms here, this is not the same competition. And that was what I was saying, where at a certain point, especially with that second challenge, I was like, this is not drag competition. It's not that it's wrong or it's bad or you can't call it drag, but it's not the same type of garment. Literally the same type of garment. On Project Runway, they would tell you this is not the same type of garment that everybody else made. I think is part of what I am seeing with a lot of these outfits basically being kaiju, or are those the robots or are those the monsters?
Mecha.
So
The giant mecha, basically. It's a Gundam ship, is what it is. Chica.
To be fair, these are from two different looks.
Yeah.
That's
but-
that's Cheryl's AI, and Lemon's is her robot.
okay,
Lemon-
well, Sparrow's robot wasn't that either. So
Yeah, exactly. Like this, I'm trying to find because my eyes are terrible. But like this is from the same challenge, and it's
Right.
not the same
Right.
type of.
but it's still
The
amazing.
dress.
Yeah.
This is a dress.
Yeah.
Even is part of it. The other one, it's not. It's a robot suit.
Two things I want to get out of the way. One, I'm pretty sure this episode was just an AI propaganda episode because it was
Truly, I really
Oh, yeah.
I do want to talk about that. It was very weird.
That needs to be
Um,
said.
And two, to all the girls who were there, nobody looked bad. Everybody, for the most part, everyone looked great. I think this was a case of some people just having to do better in the challenge.
I want
And
to
some people
flip
understanding
that
it
back
more
on
than
you.
others.
I want to flip that back on you, Jonah, and say everybody looked equally mediocre for a lot of these.
Listen, if everybody's at the same level, the level
Yes.
is here.
Everybody
it's
is
fine.
definitely at the same level, but
And
that
also,
level
I
I was sort of surprised.
I do think that Kennedy's admittance of I didn't know what AI was probably shared by at least
Yeah.
Alexis Mateo,
Yeah.
maybe Tainomi. Like that, some people just went, "Well, what is AI?" And like,
You mean
they-
Nelly Furtado dancer Tainomi Banks?
And,
Nelly
and,
Furtado
Furtado
that's what I
dancer
and
mean,
Tainomi
like-
Banks?
now
they
feature
did.
artist.
like
Now Nelly Furtado feature artist.
yes, but like
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to ding. Was it Alexis with the swoopy swoop and just the fingers and the blue gloves? Like that it was too small of a change on this. Is that Alexis? Did I screw this
Yes,
up?
that is Alexis.
Great. So,
I
but
thought
like
she
versus,
nailed. I thought the swoopy thing did nail AI texture stuff.
yeah,
Uh,
Texture.
It was very funny that the big reference that they all knew was that the hands don't look right.
The hands,
Yeah.
eyes. I'm surprised nobody like put teeth everywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Uh,
teeth is freaky. We don't have any freaks on the stage this
That's
time.
true.
But I do
The
love
feel would have.
formed her
that,
face.
as Alexis calls her, Miss Fearlicious, had like the fabric going into her leg. That's another thing you can tell
Yeah.
about AI art. When there's clothing, a lot of the layering gets like mixed in with the skin. So I thought that was pretty clever. But I do agree. I love that Alexis's interpretation was like, what would an AI create as opposed to like a printout of an AI drag queen?
Yeah.
I think really set her apart.
Yeah. Those contacts with the triple pupils though were real freaking cool.
Super good.
cool.
Very, very smart effect.
So
I
glad
thought
we had
Fierce
a
Delicious
camera
really
to
killed
zoom
this.
in on those.
I want to, it's really interesting because TK, something you brought up that I thought was super, interesting is that the way they communicated these ideas were sort of like through this like base level knowledge of the failures of AI. And so I almost, when we're talking about the propaganda that this episode serves, it's so interesting that if you're asking my guess, and I believe that you are, it's that the producers probably thought that everybody was going to do some sexy, what's it going to be, Janet Jackson, Busta Rhymes, titty plates.
Yeah.
And instead, it was, look at how horrible AI does everything.
I
And-
also wondered if anybody, like, if there was ever a consideration of the prompt being pull something AI generated, like go into Dolly and like ask for a texture for a fabric or a print or something. If there was ever any time where it was getting that degree of specific and like use AI rather than just like, what do you imagine AI produces?
Yeah, because I thought we were going to get far more like, if we let AI run wild on fashion, what would we get? And it would be
Right.
gravity defying. It would be like, physics doesn't matter to artificial intelligence at a certain point. And so, I expected to see more like physics defying creations. But again, it's about, do you know a mechanical engineer who can create the following?
And I do want to just say, like, I really am supportive of this because, like, I want to be writing songs for every one of these queens. So, like, I don't think because you can't do it, it doesn't get credit. But it's so weird to me, the things that, like, we can sort of take credit for in our art. I feel like a lot of these girls have said, and I write my own lyrics. And honestly, that a lot of the lyrics are basically like, don't step to me, I'll pop you like gum. Like, that really helps. That, like, a lot of the girls probably do write their own lyrics, but they're quick to say, oh no, you had to have bought that, and be like, oh yes, I absolutely did. And so it's sort of like, I think I almost would love it more. I think what I'm trying to say, and I can finally put it together, if you're wearing something you didn't make, it should say credit to, and it should say the person's name on the bottom.
I'm very surprised we don't have that.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's what's finally, the fabric on that. The fabric on Kennedy's middle piece. I don't know what was wrong with them. This fabric has such 3D visual to it. I kept thinking it was texture.
And that's part of what I loved about it as a garment versus something else like Lemons, which was artistically unbelievable, but this was fabric. And I am looking for garments because this is a runway, not, I don't know, tech symposium. I don't know terminology for things like that.
No, that's about right.
But yeah, just credit the artist. Credit the people that made these incredible outfits. If you're going to credit the artist that they're lip syncing, credit the artist that they're body syncing. Because these outfits are unforgettable. And I think I just want to say it's not always the girl doing it.
Yeah. And I think also then it makes sure that the audience knows that this is all them all the time. I'm in the middle of 16. I'm watching Q do her thing. I'm very dazzled. Everybody's dazzled. But they only ask her every so often, are you the maker of this? When I'm like, it's the same with Roxy Andrews, where you're like, I'm 90% sure she made all of this. And so we need to celebrate this, that this queen is operating at the level of things. Gottmik and Plastique can put together crazy looks, but they also use designers. So I would love to know when some of it is Gottmik plus a designer, just Gottmik, just a designer. I would like to know that for me.
I agree. Q works her AAVE to the bone to make those outfits.
You know, I keep trying to for it, and I just keep get dazzling by the doe eyes. So,
do you think it is to try and uphold something for the queens that don't make their own? Do you think there is any reason behind it, or it's just traditionally it hasn't been done, and so now it would just take getting in the habit?
Would it be pointing too much attention to what Rue can't do that the girls can?
Well,
I think
I
it would
mean,
be pointing
do we
too
know
much
that?
to what some of the girls can't do. Like it would just be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm actually of the opinion that this level of fashion that we're looking for is because it is RuPaul, supermodel of the world, in charge of this show. That is the expression that has excited her the most and gotten her gagged, and so people are pushing for it. I think
But
that if we had
that's-
someone who was not, it would be different. But that's just me.
But
That's
that's-
a
I think you're probably right.
Taste level, though, construction ability is.
like this. Fierce made this. She
I know.
boned that dress. That's
Yeah.
insane.
yeah.
And she literally boned her way to the top with this one.
Well, she wasn't happy about it, so.
Yeah, I mean, and the critiques were right. It sucks because it is so good, it's so cool, and there are like 8 different challenge prompts, or no challenge prompt at all. It's just your runway, where this actually might have won for the night, but it is so specifically not new supermodel of the world. There's just nothing futuristic about it. Maybe kind of the hat. In conception,
For the size.
But it
For
looks
the
like
size.
My Fair Lady. And that's
Yeah.
not specifically
it's
her
classic.
fault.
It's I would have accepted Kentucky Derby. Like there's a lot of places where this absolutely would have won.
I was
Uh,
so fascinated because I watched this episode and then I went right into the season 16 Neo Goth design challenge, and watching them on the Neo Goth challenge being like, I don't think you should be wearing your trumpet dress gown because that's not exactly gothic or neo, and everyone being like, well, crap, let me change things, versus this where they're like, let's do AI of the future, and we're pulling out some stunning Gigi the night they invented champagne looks. Like, I was just like, these were shot almost at the exact same time and having 2 very different reactions to futurism.
And I had even also made a comment, and I was watching this with Jonah and Kevo, so they've already heard my reaction. But Tori and TK, I would love to get your take. One of the things I thought also really hurt her on this dress was that this is just something we would see her in. This is just, it's not even like it missed the prompt, which it did, but like, is she going to stop stepping out in the same 5 silhouettes? Like, when do we hit the limit on an All-Stars? When do you have to elevate? And one of the other tricks is the not Canadian ladies have the benefit of, you've never judged me, I'm new to you. Fierce Delicious, this is one bag of tricks. What do you guys think about like that? Part of it is probably Michelle prejudge syndrome.
Well, and Tracy, the first thing Tracy said is this is getting one note.
Which
Well,
was so wild that she was going off script. Which was, I'm pretty sure about the petulant joke that Fierce
yeah,
was
it
like,
is about,
I'm
it is
petulant.
about the petulant thing. That
And it was like,
but-
she went off script being like, this is one note, you need to stop. And it was
I mean, and I
sabotage.
think her point stands. The thing about it is, I think Fierce Delicious is not prepared to hear critiques and do whatever the judges want in order to get ahead. She does not have that Roxy Andrews mix of, I'm confident in everything I do, but I'm also listening, so I will change what I do if I see somebody is pointing towards the path to correctness. Like, I can make a different dress if Rue tells me that what I need is a different silhouette. She comes with the silhouette that she thinks is absolutely perfect, and when somebody tells her otherwise, she doesn't have the same adaptability because now she's frustrated that her conception of what is perfect is differing from what other people are saying. I think that will probably be her downfall unless she just kind of lucks out and everything that she has brought and is prepared to do is exactly what they want anyway. But I think in this episode we saw that that's not super likely to happen. And what she has is a really funny, good TV personality that's worth watching. And I have to believe that, like your Gia Guns, she's banking on that marketability at this point and sort of no longer super focused on the win, because I think after you hear the critiques that she hears and have the reaction that she has, you got to be in sort of a different mode for what you're going to do.
Also, guys, I don't know if you saw the movie Hercules, the Disney animated movie, but Pain and Panic. Remember them? This is them now.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
well,
For me, as a supreme defender of the original, let's show some versatility, Miss Bianca Del Rio, I have a lot of questions, because to me, a design challenge actually is the moment where you want to use your brand of drag and silhouette and covet it into the design challenge. So I actually don't think it's kind to say on a design challenge, well, we see this all the time from you. It should be the moment where they're like, this is who you are, this is what you do, and this is how you took that and brought it into this theme, this idea. Whether or not you bring all the same look, that's on you, do what thou wilt. But I don't think it's fair on a design challenge to say, like, well, we expected something that didn't say Fierce Delicious on it, when the whole point is to represent yourself in this new idea.
Same dress, still won.
Yeah, I mean, that gets the no prize. That's
But also, Bianca did not wear the same dress the whole time, and I will go to my
No,
grave.
she did. People say
pretending
that Bianca's dresses actually did have multiple different silhouettes. She did actually have different silhouettes. She just happened to wear dresses the entire time, which is fine. She's a
Fine.
distinguished woman who's incontinent. It's
She's
fine.
a lady.
So I want to ask, was anybody else kind of like 2% bored by the lip sync?
Oh, I was 100% bored. All I hear is Jonah being like, Canada has the best lip syncs. And I'm like, all right, Canada versus the world, let's see what you got. And it was
Canada
fine.
1 has the best lip syncs.
It was fine.
This was truly boring. And it was kind of predetermined. If Tainomi had stayed, I don't believe we would have felt the judging was fair at that point.
Agreed.
Part of why I think they wanted to make sure, Cheryl stayed is they don't want this to be U.S. versus Canada. We've already lost a couple of our people who are internationally not North American, and Cheryl's the last person standing representing that. And I think they want to kind of be like, it's not just going to be this, that in any way. I felt a couple things about the lip sync, about the judging. I don't think Eureka should have been safe. Eureka probably could have been in the top, but it was just really weird to have one person just stand in the back and not get any critiques. Like, not even as the biggest Eureka stan of, like, I hope she wins, but I'm not praying for her downfall. But, like, it just felt weird when the package she brought was pretty good, and there's only 7 people just give her critiques and judge her. Like, it's already a short season. That's already the first part that was bizarre. Me knowing these 2 performers, I guess I expected more to an Avril Lavigne generic pop song, and this is just an easy one to just do a bunch of stunts and dips and tricks to, because it's just very high energy, keep it upbeat with a lot of BPM. To use one of the internet's favorite quotes, if I had a nickel for every time Tainomi lost Avril Lavigne lip sync on a design challenge, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt bad. I did think that the writing was on the wall for Tainomi with the critiques after last week. But this song was sort of tailor-made for Cheryl. It's like Cheryl does so good with like white girl party songs, because they're always bad songs that she makes fun because she is so high energy and such a white lady who can dance, that she like adds something to it. She does this great she's dressed as Lisa Rinna lip syncing to a Taylor Swift song. There's some great clips of it online, and it's just like she's like doing this like suburban mom haircut thing, and it's really perfect. It's really Cheryl, but again, it's a Taylor Swift song. It's like really milquetoast and kind of boring. Same thing with this Avril Lavigne song. It's not even one of her hits. And
B-side.
what's that?
I said B-side. I don't think it is, but it's
Yeah.
B-side.
And it's just like not a zone at all where Tainomi lives as a performer. And so it was just sort of an insult to injury thing where I was like, okay, like the critiques are really saying Cheryl anyway, and now we're doing this lip sync. I love Cheryl a lot, and I love seeing her perform. So it wasn't the most bored I've ever been, but it was just sort of like I would have loved to give a song that put them on equal footing. Actually, this would have been a fantastic place for a Nelly Furtado song.
Yeah. Oh, I literally burst out laughing when they started playing this song because I found it so unbelievable. This to me is like Kids Bop commercial music. So I was very surprised. I guess because one of Canada's greatest outports. I don't know, but it was weird. It's dated. It's not what I was expecting for Canada versus the world. And I feel kind of bad for this episode in so many ways because I feel like I don't have much to say about it, but I feel like that happens a lot with balls. There wasn't really a lot to watching this. There wasn't really a lot to reacting, especially because the prompts were all so weird and not kind of varied enough, which I think is how we even ended up with motherfucker. What's the delicious the
Fierce delicious.
Fierce. I think that's how we ended up with that controversy because like everyone wanted to do something that isn't this weird Mad Max Blade Runner concept that they were kind of pushing for this whole ball. I feel like previous balls, the 3 separate challenges, there usually is a lot of disparity between the concepts, so you can be showing something different. So ultimately, this episode just felt weird. I don't remember what next week's episode was going to be.
Oh, I do, and I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I remember it's not Snatch Game, and so I'm like, when are we going to get to challenges that I find engaging and exciting? That was the great thing about Ask 9. Allstars 9, I feel like every single week, there was at least one, if not 2 or 3 sometimes, challenges that we wanted to see between the mini challenge and the maxi challenge. They really were giving us the type of competition that we wanted to see on that. And I don't think I'm getting that from Canada versus the world, which is disappointing because I was looking forward to it.
And I want to jump in on that because then I want to jump to that next episode thing. I think there is something about seeing even the queens feel kind of super defeated by the not getting the challenges they want because like they need the challenges in a certain order. Funny queens who need to make it to the end need funny challenges early on to endear to the judge. Fashion queens need fashion challenges to get past bad comedy weeks, etc. And like something that I thought was I'm not look, I've never been on TV like this, so I'm not here to judge Miss Tainomi Judd, but I feel like when she outright said, I need to dance my feelings out. Guys, I am telling you right now, there are times that I decide to drive to the Target that is 2 Targets away. So all I can do is put the volume really, really loud and sing really, really loud in the car until everything feels better. But I got to be honest, with, what is it, $100,000 on the line? Mm-hmm. That's not the fucking time to sing your feels out. And so when she was like, no, put me in, I want to dance. And they were like, okay, you're in. And then somebody was like, well, since she's in, and she was like, excuse me, why are you saying I'm in? I was like, oh my God, the judges are always drama. Ashley, it's not double jeopardy, but you definitely said that you're not going to fight about not dancing. What the dick?
Not to spoil too much for the future if you continue with your Canada watch, Tori, but a similar thing happens in Canada 4 where people are arguing and being like, put me in the bottom, I want to send them home, put me in the bottom. And it's really funny and it was really entertaining. Canada continues with the fights about nothing because there were fights about nothing this episode and it was so entertaining to watch people like just get angry and mean to one another over truly like anthills. These were anthills.
I find it so fascinating and a little fun and very weird. Fiercelicious is one of the first queens. I take it way too personally when queens are obnoxious and bratty and horrible. And I get really angry at them. Like when season 16 started off, I was so annoyed with Morphine. And I really thought I would hate her for the whole season because she was kind of a dick about some of the people's talents. And then like the next on the third episode when they all meet, she's so protective of Amanda, that was one of the people that she was kind of rude about. And I like my opinion completely changed. Adore her. But like I get when queens are bratty, I get really annoyed. And yet there's something so charming about how Fiercelicious does it because she's so clearly wrong and emotional and stupid and just like freaking out when you're in the top 3. But you're not even doing the like, I'm just frustrated that I didn't win. She was just like annoyed that the critiques weren't exactly what she wanted. And the fact that everybody there is just like, little sister, you're so annoying, shut the hell up. But still, little sister, like we love you so much. And then offline or online when everybody was commenting on Twitter, she went really hard on Lemon. And they had this, like, what seemed like very nasty back and forth. But then at the end of it, Lemon was like, yeah, this is just like how everybody deals with Fiercelicious. I love her so much. And like her next post was about how they're sisters. And everybody was just like, yeah, this is just her. We love her. But also she's like this. And we respond as though it's not really very appropriate. As I said, I don't think she can win this competition. I think she's super talented. I would love to see it. I don't think she lacks the ability. I just think like her style of how she competes is just probably not the one that gets her to the top here. But I think the personality that she has of being so absurd and bratty is actually like turning into one of the more watchable and entertaining things on this season.
I mean, it's true. Like I sort of check out until like the runway, like I'll be on my phone or mostly listening, and like especially this episode where it's just like they're all working on stuff but no one is panicking.
Yeah.
That I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll see you on the runway, it's fine. What were you saying, Nico?
Oh no, I mean I was just gonna say that there is something to be said for how hard a time I give Fiercelicious, but I know that if I were still in an education setting where I was working with students, I mean, there is something endearing when the person literally has like, it's amoral versus immoral. Fiercelicious just has no idea that human beings don't actually act like this. And that makes it, I guess, tolerable.
Different.
Speaking of different, I got to do it. Guys, what the fuck is next week's? Is it like, it's like taking the library and crossing it with a roast, but also adding in some elements of checkers and making it really personal. And I feel like this is both recipe for disaster.
It's a reading battle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
I'm thinking it's more like rap battles and reading.
I'm hoping, because if this is like sitting there with your copy of Muzzy, it's going to be a mess.
I do think ultimately it is going to be basically a roast. I think it's basically going to be a roasting challenge.
It's a new spin on a roast, I guess.
Yeah, maybe not.
So it's like individual Cornish game hens instead of one big turkey.
Yeah. I mean,
kind of.
Lollapalooza with reading.
Yeah.
Even that, I look at, I'm thinking about the last UK versus the World Challenge where it was like the Last Supper I forget exactly what it was, but they were all in costume and doing the roast, it was a comedy challenge, but it was mostly like roast jokes. I think ultimately it is just going to be like the many comedy challenges that we've seen. It'll be interesting because like if the judge, it's going to come down to the judging. Like if the judging is you were so funny but you didn't actually roast anybody, then that'll be like, okay, this was actually about the roasting. It'll be interesting to see.
All right. Well, I mean, whether it was the ball in all of its excellence or the what seems to be humor pugilism that's coming next week, I'm pretty excited, honestly, for all the dings we're giving Canada versus the World Season 2. My biggest problem is honestly the prejudging banter. I mean, really, truly, there are times where like Rue and Michelle tell jokes that I don't know. I don't know who they're for. I don't know how many Quaaludes you got to take and find them funny, but it makes sense to you. Good. Go coffee enema. But like sometimes the jokes that Brad, Tracy, and Brooke share with one another before the judging, I feel like Justin Trudeau should apologize to me because like these jokes coming out of Canada are so offensive. They are just very silly, very base ass humor. And it's one thing when it's like the girls being dumb, but again, someone's scripting this and I'm just looking for a little bit more effort.
I don't know enough, so I can't comment. I like to believe that there's less scripting than there is, but I'm sure it's all scripted. I think Rue's better at that chit chat, silly back and forth than Brooke is. I think Brooke just immediately goes to "ooh, that's hot" over actual volleying.
Yeah,
Not
it's like
listening, not active listening. Just
Yeah.
respond.
yeah, Panera is never going to get into the Zagat's guide, and Brooks being adorable and cute and single serving about things isn't quite the same thing as Rue's decades of experience.
Sure.
But Brooke is a lot more polished than Rue. So it's always like, it's that trade-off. One of them is better extemporaneously, and I trust one of them to read cue cards way better.
Right. And Brooke feels confident in wearing a ruffle that barely covers two tits and they're downstairs, whereas Rue, as short as it'll go, will still cover the torso. So
You stupid. Does anybody have anything left on this episode? I feel like I didn't have an opportunity to refer to Michelle as the turnpike of Drag Race in a hot minute. So I just one more time for Michelle going on over to Down Under. Really excited to see her spread her wings. That's our Jersey girl.
This was a very silly, dumb mini challenge that in the middle of I was like, they're not going to animate this. Wouldn't that just be hysterical? They put them in these suits and then they just didn't animate it, and then that happened, and I thought it was wild.
Right. They didn't.
That was my reaction. Kennedy was all of us, as silly as it was. And I try not to come for the judges because everybody has a difficult job, and in the same way, I always want to do critique. But my goodness, you can never, ever see me lacking like this. I have never seen a judge who's explaining a challenge come in with cue cards and read off the cards. I have never seen that.
This was the point where I was like, oh, she's the Maria Menounos of Canada.
Guys, they're covered in balls, and then they did a ball. It was an all-ball episode.
Balls
Yeah.
to the wall.
Oh, I love that.
I just realized it was all balls. It was literally balls and then a ball.
Yeah.
This thing is kind of a ball. Yeah.
I just feel like if they're going to use a photo of Eureka, they should get the
tongue.
rights.
It looks like a
This is a ball
tongue.
sack,
I'm
right?
so confused.
That's Grimace's mother.
Who?
That's Grimace's mother.
Actually, I would love that if Grimace's mother was this pink drag queen.
I genuinely think Eureka would do a great of that, like a great bigger than life, making herself 10 times larger than she is to like fit that shape, because she has that kind of humor about it, and I feel like she could, with that stupid Gwen Stefani pink hair, could sure do it.
At the end of the day, I think one of the funniest things drag queens can ever have done to them is to be put in mocap suits and full face. I've never laughed harder than when it was Kimora Hall.
Thank you for bringing that up. Kimora,
the first thing I thought about, just like it's the fact that it's just the face, but they have the cap on, like, and nobody's body looks good in a mocap suit. That's the whole point, because you're gonna get something put on over it.
Except
it is
for
just
Kimora. And those big old tree titties.
Yep. But this is the funniest thing. Like the actual challenge, them acting was not funny at all. And like Tori, I was just kind of checked out. I was on my phone. I was just waiting to get to the good part. But I would look up every once in a while and just absolutely cackle, because this image is worth its weight in gold.
I think it's interesting the way that then relates to the Maxi challenge, where the challenge is
only the visual of this challenge is funny, and that is all that's engaging, and that's all it had to offer. And that's not quite enough to engage us fully for a week of how many weeks do we have? 6?
Yeah, we're halfway through. There's
There-
2 more competitives and then the finale.
you can't say it was a waste of a week because this was amazing artistry that they touted out for these girls, but it was not a fully engaging week for how short this season is.
Can't help but agree. I think this is a great example of where, you know, the Traveling Wilburys, for those who don't know, they were like, what if all of the greatest classic rock singer songwriters got together and formed a band? It had like Bob Dylan, it had Tom Petty. It was like a thing in the late 80s. Why doesn't everybody know what they are, that I had to explain to you who the Traveling Wilburys are? Because sometimes when you get the greatest talents of all time into one room together, they don't make the greatest museum exhibit just because they're all beautiful paintings. And so there's a lot to be said about where this season is just not always servicing the exquisite quality of Queen, artistry, and even the judges, who are also talented in their own way. So I'm going to say, let's final these thoughts out. You know, Tori, this is your first international Draglympics. And also, please, talk to me. Are you in mocap today? Are you? I want to know all about this amazing look you've got going on.
Oh, I
was about to be like, Tori,
out...
please don't tell me you just started doing something different and I made you feel weird on air. I'm so sorry.
No, I wanted to. I spent a lot of time today being like, how do I do AI from over here? And then I was like, well, maybe a little robot. And then that didn't work out in the first hour, so I decided to go for line work and a little closer to Drag King world. It's just super fun.
Yeah.
You know, blew out my... Every time I buy an eyeliner pencil, it's gone within a week because I don't know how to use it properly, I guess, and I just keep streaking it on, and then it's gone. So no, I'm very happy. It's very exciting. You can find more of me being silly and playing with makeup on the old social medias. That's SM Tori with an I. Having fun, being cute, doing the thing. Jonah, where can folks find you?
You can find me places at Peak Jonah. That's Peak.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, Mr. Producer
Could
Man.
it be?
You can find me doing my thing here. I updated the images at the beginning of this episode, as you might have seen, to point to some of our other amazing coverage. And we are currently only 2 weeks away from FlameCon, 2 weeks from right now. We'll be gearing up for our second panel of the weekend because we have 2, one on Saturday and one on Sunday, celebrating queer visibility and youth entertainment on Saturday, and celebrating Star Trek and Doctor Who as 60 years of boundary-pushing science fiction on Sunday. So it's going to be a really fun time. We love doing conventions. We love getting to talk at panels. We love getting to bring in exciting new voices. We will probably try and record and show it on this channel. So look for that. And in the meantime, you can find me, like I said, at Kev O'Reilly. Teak, where can the folks don't find you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can the folks find you?
You guys can find me here all over this show, also at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. If you want to check out my music, that's Nico Action Music, NICOACTIONMUSIC. We love making this show for you. We do podcasts where we talk comics. We do this live show where we talk all kinds of TV. It's just been Drag Race focused because in the summer there's not a lot on. So you're definitely sure that we're going to be watching Food Truck Road Race, as that is got like 2 or 3 weeks left till the finale. Just wanted to plug the sexiest food daddy on TV, Tyler Florence, because I'm sure he needs it. Anyway, if you want to do some stuff for us, like, comment, and subscribe on all the social that you want to. We love you. We think you guys are amazing. We love reading your comments. That's why we reply to them. And all of our new subscribers, hey, guys, you're incredible. And then some stuff you guys can do for yourselves, for us. Number 1, stay safe. Number 2, be brave. And number 3, evolve daily. Because who you were yesterday, incredible. Who you are today, we love it. But who you are tomorrow, that's the dream. And we can't wait to see who that is next show. So until then, we'll see you.